the report, please.
Mr. Mayor, Laura Blumenthal will be seconding this report for me.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, when this council declared a climate emergency in July 2019, it was clear from the outset that to reach our aims, we would have to make some difficult decisions and implement some bold interventions. The proposal we are discussing tonight is one such intervention. Our climate emergency action plan includes an objective to deliver 4 solar farms with the potential of generating in excess of 20 megawatt hours of electricity. To achieve this, we've looked across all of our larger land holdings, and this application is the first of our solar farm proposals to be brought forward. The current energy use of Wokingham Borough Council is approximately 37 megawatt hours per annum. The projected peak output of this solar farm is 29.6 megawatts. This solar farm would therefore make a significant step towards offsetting the council's own carbon emissions and would also significantly reduce the borough's carbon footprint. But the environmental benefit of this application isn't just about green energy. Almost 11,000 trees will be planted as part of this application, with further landscaping and planting across the development, as well as to support hedgerows and rewild the land under the panels. A new greenway running north to south across the site will link the existing public rights of way. Grassland enhancement, woodland creation and hedgerow improvements and planting is anticipated to provide significant biodiversity net gain. There will also be local labour opportunities available as part of the construction, and all of these elements combined will also play an important part in the delivery of our climate emergency action plan. As part of an extensive pre-application consultation, Wokingham Borough Council have sought to consider and respond to the comments raised, identifying and resolving issues where possible. Council officers have met with the parish councils to explain the scheme and understand their key concerns and issues. Conversations have also been ongoing with the farmer about how the council may accommodate his continued occupation of the site, including the farmhouse. The consultation culminated in a number of amendments to the project, which are included in the plans for the solar farm. Amendments have been made to lessen the impact on nearby heritage sites, to improve the public rights of way, and also for the farmer to improve access to his retained land. As a result, we believe we've acted positively and reasonably to the comments received and feel we are presenting a proposal here to this council that they may get behind and support. This development is not without its impact. The impact to the landscape views, heritage assets and alternative land uses are all outlined as part of the original planning application. But I want to be very clear here. All of these impacts are both temporary and reversible. More importantly, set against the positive effect on our carbon footprint and the broader environmental good, the benefits outweigh the impacts. Many residents have contacted me to say that we should be looking to build our solar farms on brownfield sites before we consider using agricultural land. But as the executive member for planning frequently reminds me, we do not have an abundant supply of brownfield sites in our borough. Although if anyone does know of any, I'm sure that both Councillor Smith and I would be very happy to hear about them. To achieve our carbon aims, we have to be bold. Building this solar farm is a bold initiative that will significantly reduce our carbon footprint. Having considered the paper presented, I hope all members will vote to approve this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. The second, Councillor Blumenthal, do you want to speak now or reserve the right?
I'll reserve my right.
Okay, thank you. So I'm now going to ask if anyone else wishes to speak. First of all, on Teams. Is there anybody there? I can't see anybody. Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, we have an amendment.
Right. Hang on a second. Okay. Would you like to propose the amendment, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We've been asked to do 4 things tonight under this agenda item. Approve commencement of this solar farm, approve the spending of over £20 million of borrowed money, note the estimated net income, and approve the delegation of decision-making that would allow 2 individuals to make decisions that could more than halve that income. We're asked to do all of that with not enough information in front of us to form a business case. We are very much in favour of the principle of generating renewable energy. It is essential that we move away from burning fossil fuels, and if you've been following the news recently, you'll know that there is an energy crisis at present. We are a net importer of gas, and the wholesale prices have escalated to a point that has sent the industry into meltdown. And whilst we're not the only country with these issues, things are substantially worse for us here in Britain due to Brexit. We will very sadly see many more households plunge into fuel poverty as a result. Just because we are pro-renewable energy, though, does not mean we should be making decisions of this magnitude without thorough scrutiny. It would be fiscally irresponsible, for any member of this council chamber to give the green light when there are so many questions hanging in the air. Where are the decommissioning costs in the plan? How long is the value per unit of electricity exported guaranteed for? What other price sensitivities are there? Why does the report we have tonight state that this will offset over 11,000 tonnes of CO2 per annum, yet the Climate Emergency Action Plan states 6,325 on page 42, 7,970 on page 43, and the planning application says 3,680? Why are we being told it is the only possible site for this solar farm, and yet 3 other solar farms are planned in the future? As you can see, members in this chamber are being asked to approve this without scrutiny. It would be irresponsible of us to do so until that scrutiny is taking place. We still don't know if the Secretary of State will call in the planning application for this as it departs from planning policy. Sending it to scrutiny is the right thing to do. I'd also like to take the opportunity to remind members about motion 5 on the agenda tonight, supporting the local electricity bill. This legislation is paramount if we are to meet the energy demands of this nation without the need for fossil fuels, and will go a long way to provide the stability in energy supply and demand that is failing right now. We are unfortunately set to celebrate the first birthday of this motion soon, as it's been on the agenda since November 2020. The stagnation of the democratic process here in Wokingham means we are not getting to debate important motions. So I'm asking all councillors to support the amendment in front of you, and let's get through the motions tonight for the sake of the community we represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
I do. It's Councillor Imogen Shepherd-Dubey.
All right. I assume this is the time when the amendment is circulated. They've already got it. Okay. Councillor Shepherd-Dubey, do you want to speak now or reserve your right?
I will reserve my right, thank you.
Thank you. So we will now have a debate on it. So I'll look at the teams first, if there's anyone want to speak there. No. David Hicksroom, anybody wishes to speak on the amendment? I can see at least one hand. Okay, and in the chamber, please. And can you keep your hands up? So I'm going to go to Councillor Burgess in David Hicks' room first, please. Sorry, Councillor.
Hello, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite rightly, reducing CO2 emissions is a priority for the council, and solar power is certainly a good way of achieving significant reductions. But could the same reductions be achieved without blighting a beautiful part of our borough for the next 25 years? Could the same reductions be achieved while also directly benefiting our residents? We simply don't know, because the business case for solar farms has not come before overview and scrutiny, and we have no idea what alternatives have been considered and discounted. The borough has 2,600 council-owned homes. Why not bring forward the plan to add solar and other energy-saving measures to these homes? This would not only reduce the council's carbon footprint, but could also take many of our less well-off residents out of fuel poverty, and furthermore, would not involve appropriation of prime agricultural land. In my ward, I have 2 industrial estates with enormous warehouses and a business park with large office blocks. Some have roofs the size of a football pitch. Why not work with business owners to install panels on these buildings? The buildings could get free electricity, or the businesses rather could get free electricity. The council gets income from feeding the surplus to the grid, and the panels are installed in a brownfield site rather than a green one. We are being asked to borrow £20 million for a project without knowing whether the council's carbon reduction ambitions could be achieved by spending the same money in a different and potentially more beneficial way for residents and businesses. Until this has been thoroughly through scrutiny, I simply cannot vote for it, and I support this motion, the amendment rather.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd. Councillor Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to remind members that it was my amendment that was accepted when we declared a climate emergency in 2019. As I shall be leaving the council next May, I suspect that it'll be one of the achievements I'm proudest of here, even if what has happened with the climate emergency plan subsequently turns out to not be a matter for pride. This scheme came up at planning committee the other week, and I spoke in favour of the application and was very pleased to vote for it. I have a member questioning tonight on this solar farm, and I may withdraw it if the answers are forthcoming in this debate. So it may save time if I speak about that now. That question is specifically about the failure of this solar farm to achieve its planned carbon reductions. The climate emergency plan states it should save 197,500 tonnes of carbon over 25 years. Yet when it was approved at planning committee the other week, it was reported saving just 92,000 tonnes, over 100,000 tonnes less than the target. That figure is actually not correct either, as it refers to the original proposal, which had more solar panels. So the actual carbon savings will be even less than this. And the point of mentioning that is that most of our climate emergency plan is fantasy, wishful thinking, and greenwash. But this target, this solar farm, is one of the very few in our climate plan that is specifically measurable and should have been achievable. And if this flagship project of carbon reductions in the climate emergency plan can't even be remotely believed or achieved, why should we trust any of the other figures in that plan or indeed here? I mean, point 2 of this recommendation delegates responsibility of final decisions around this scheme, including funding costs, to the exec member for our disastrous, ineffective, inaccurate and unacceptable climate plan. And that's really difficult to accept. I know that our finance officer is pretty good with his sums, but I'd recommend they keep the exec member away from their calculator if they want this to add up. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Doran. Councillor Burgess?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the Labour Group supports this amendment. The fact that a decision of this magnitude is being proposed for approval tonight without proper scrutiny, without any sight of a business case, and it even asks us to delegate responsibility to just 2 people is quite honestly quite astounding. So we support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Burgess. Councillor, I can't see any other. I'm doing a scan. Any other people wishing to speak in David Hicks or on Teams? Otherwise, we'll move to the seconder of the motion. Oh, there's one more. Gregor, you do get the right of reply.
I thought I was also given the right to decide whether or not I accepted the amendment.
You probably were, but I apologise. It's not my crib sheet.
I don't. I can give you a reason why if you want, or I can wait until later.
Do you mind waiting till later? And I do apologise. Right, so I don't see there's any other people who wish to speak, so we'll move to the seconder of the amendment, Councillor Shepherd-Dubey.
Good evening. From hearing what everybody's spoken about this evening, essentially we have allocated over £20 million worth of public money to this project. This is a lot of money just to be handed over to the officer to manage to 2 people. Is it really acceptable for this amount of money to be spent without being able to at least ask questions of our officers and experts? Nowhere is the plan for this solar farm being examined or questioned by any of our committee. Is this really honestly a fiscally responsible thing to do? While in principle, we certainly support the use of solar energy and we want to see our solar farms put in good places, we still need to ensure that this is a good decision making backing up this up. And at the moment that is in doubt. And the plans that stack up a business case are also in doubt. I'm afraid that this report gives painfully little information to reassure us. So will there be an opportunity to ask the experts mentioned about the plans? Will it include the cost for removal from the farm, the restoration of the land after 25 years? How much has been allocated for its maintenance? These things we cannot see. We can see that there is a maintenance plan, but we can't see exactly what it is. How has the income been calculated? How will it be monitored and reported back to council? It may still be the right thing to do, even if the expected income turns out to be not what we expect. But please give all the councillors the ability to be that critical friend on this project. Council, please can we have this proposal sent to our one of our scrutiny committees to give all of the council a chance to ask questions and be sure that we do understand how our residents want our money how our residents' money is to be best put to use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd-Dubey. Councillor Murray, you have the right of reply on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of points. Overview and scrutiny is not a decision-making body. It's not in our constitution. The planning application has been approved by the planning committee. The proposal, including a full business case, including costings, including how it's going to be maintained, was approved by the executive on the 29th of July this year. All councillors had the opportunity to come along and ask questions if they wanted to, and yet nobody did. This isn't in line with our constitution, Mr. Mayor, and so I'm not accepting this amendment to the the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. So we'll now go to the recorded vote. And I'll hand over to Susan to manage it.
Okay, I'll read out the names. Sam Akhtar,
Okay. If your name is called and you're in David Hicks, please can you move in? And please keep socially distanced. As this is coming on, I've been asked to clarify, this is a vote on the amendment, not on the substantive motion as it stands. Thank you.
Sam Akhtar. For, against or abstention.
Yeah, sorry. Against.
Keith Baker,
Abstain.
Harry Bath,
Against.
Rachel Bishop-Firth. For. Laura Blumenthal,
Against.
Chris Bowring,
Against.
Shirley Boyd,
For.
Prue Bray,
For.
Rachel Burgess,
For.
Anne Chadwick. Stephen Conway. Stephen Conway,
I'm for.
Phil Cunnington,
Against.
Peter Dennis,
For.
Carl Duran,
For.
Lindsay Ferris,
For.
Michael Firmiger,
Against.
Paul Fishwick,
For.
Maria G,
For.
Guy Granderson, John Hawthorne, David Hare,
For.
Pauline Hallier-Simon,
Can you please use the microphone so that other people can hear?
Apologies, I thought it was still on. I'm against.
Graham Howe,
Against.
Clive Jones,
For.
Pauline Jorgensen.
Again? I think you've missed Norman out.
Who's next? Norman Jorgensen.
Again.
John Kaiser,
Against.
Sarah Kerr,
For.
Abdul Lloyd,
Against.
Morag Melbourne,
For.
Charles McGetts,
Against.
Rebecca McGetts,
Against.
Adrian Madden,
For.
Andrew Mickelburn,
For.
Stuart Monroe,
Against.
Gregor Murray,
Against.
Barry Patman,
Against.
Jackie Rance,
Against.
Angus Ross,
Against.
Daniel Sargent,
Against.
Ian Shenton,
For.
Imogen Shepherd-Dubey,
For.
Rochelle Shepherd-Dubey,
For.
Caroline Smith,
For.
Chris Smith,
Against.
Wayne Smith,
Against.
Alison Swaddle,
Against.
Shepherd-Dubey,
Against.
the amendment's wrong.
Thank you very much. The amendment unfortunately is lost. So we move back to the original motion and we can continue the debate. I'll just remind everybody that we've got about 10 minutes left on this debate. So who would like to speak on the original motion? We'll do the chamber first. Please, raise your hand up. Anybody in the David Hicks who wishes to speak? Can't see anybody. Or on Teams? I think it's just Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As its starting point, this report references the Climate Emergency Action Plan of January 2020. This plan stated there will be 5 solar farms costing £18 million. The update in July 2020 stated the same cost of 18 million, 5 farms with a carbon saving of 25 kilotons at 5 kilotons per solar farm. Scroll forward to today and we have 1 solar farm costing £20 million, more than we were originally told that 5 farms would cost. If that wasn't bad enough, both the plan in 2020 with a budget for 5 solar farms and the plan in 2021 with no budget for 4 of these solar farms both show the same carbon savings. We've been told this evening that we don't know the full costs of these other schemes, but that they will be on a similar basis. So I can only assume then that this will mean borrowing will be more like 100 million in total in order to fund all 5 farms and not the 18 million we were originally told. This report, along with the latest action plans, makes no reference to that change whatsoever and the budgetary and borrowing implications of it. The cost of solar farms is effectively 5 times what we were previously told, without it being referenced or noted. It's not a detail. This is potentially £100 million hole in the plan. The report states that the business case was considered by the Climate Emergency Funding Board. It does not say who is on this board and what they reviewed. Why has the financial business case not been made available to council? Even the executive only got to see an extract, just a spreadsheet model. Was there no discussion of the risks? Did the business case include a discussion of the risks? If not, why not? It's a transparency issue. With that in mind, are we really being asked to delegate more powers regarding this scheme? Why would we vote to delegate decisions of this scale to just 2 people when there's been so little transparency about these schemes up to now? If you look at the detail of these recommendations, we've been asked to delegate decisions that could as much as halve the annual income from this scheme. The financial model that forecasts this income seems to be dependent on the energy markets, and we're seeing right now just how volatile those markets can be. 25 years is a very long time. You can't base the efficacy of the calculations on the state of the market today, as we seemed to hear earlier. There's no guaranteed price for which we can sell electricity for 25 years, so these predictions could be meaningless and taxpayers could end up funding the shortfall. It's just not clear how we are hedging against this likely volatility. Councillor Murray seemed very confident in this investment. If someone tells you that a way of making money is too good to be true, it probably isn't. This is yet another example of greenwash by the Conservatives. There's serious issues around transparency and serious issues on risk. We can't vote for this until our concerns have been addressed.
Thank you. We're running out of time. We've got 7 minutes left. So Councillor Kerr.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to pick up on a couple of points that were said earlier. Obviously, yes, planning did approve this. It was approved on planning grounds specifically, nothing more, nothing less. Yes, it did come to executive. We don't get to ask questions in the way we can in scrutiny. We have a very structured way of asking questions, and we didn't know it was on the agenda until it had been published when there were already questions on that agenda. So we haven't had the opportunity to actually ask the questions we would like answering, which is why we really wanted to go to scrutiny. So I just wanted to make that clear for the public who are watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Conway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I was a member of the planning committee that approved the application. I asked some awkward questions about impact on the heritage assets, but I was satisfied in planning terms that this was acceptable. It met the planning criteria. However, there were lots of issues concerned with this application that we didn't have the opportunity to discuss in planning because they weren't relevant to the planning process. And I deeply regret that the ruling group has seen fit to just reject what is a very constructive amendment. It's not an attack on the scheme. It's an attempt to ensure financial responsibility in this council. Deeply regrettable that they chose to vote against it.
Thank you, Councillor Conway. Councillor Blumenthal, you reserve the right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Murray has already given us a long list of the positives this solar farm can bring to the borough. So I can simply say, let's get on and deliver the solar farm that we promised to our residents in the Climate Emergency Action Plan. Now is the time to be bold, to reach our net zero carbon target by 2030. And the fact that this solar farm has potential to offset the total carbon emissions from this council's entire operational property portfolio really shows the impact. So let's get on with it and let's get the solar farm built.
Thank you, Councillor Blumenthal. Councillor Murray, you're right to reply and then we'll go to the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to make a point around the energy prices because it's been raised a couple of times. When the business case for the solar farm was created, energy prices were actually wholesale at pretty much a low point. And as a result of that, the business case that has been built around this, the business case that generates about £400,000 a year in profit for the council after paying down the loan and the interest on top of it, that's based on very conservative numbers from a conservative group. The irony. Also, energy prices have skyrocketed. We've seen it in the last couple of weeks. Now, taking control of our energy supply in a volatile time, that's a good thing to do. Creating a business plan when energy prices are at an all-time low that still stacks up and makes the borough a profit, and then energy prices wholesale start rising, that will only benefit the borough. So, you know, if the business case stacked up when energy prices were low, they'll stack up even better when energy prices are high. And if there is volatility in the market, having supply of our own electricity that we can then use to provide to schools, for example, who don't have the budget to pay volatile energy prices, that can only be a good thing too.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. So I'll hand over to Susan to do the recorded vote. Yes, I'm just watching. The David Hicks people are getting in line. So I think we need to.
Sam Akhtar.
Yeah. Always the first. Yeah. Do we have a desk with Sam just around the corner?
Sam Akhtar.
Councillor Akhtar, we're waiting for your vote. 4.
Keith Baker.
Abstain.
Barry Bath.
4.
Rachel Bishop-Firth.
Abstain.
Laura Blumenthal.
4.
Chris Bowring.
4.
Shirley Boyd.
Against.
Prue Bray.
Abstain.
Rachel Burgess.
Against.
Stephen Conway.
Abstain.
Phil Cunnington.
4.
Peter Dennis.
Abstain.
Carl Duran.
Against.
Lindsay Ferris.
Abstain.
Michael Firmager.
4.
Paul Fishwick.
Abstain.
Maria G.
Abstain.
John Holsall.
4.
David Hare.
Abstain.
Pauline Holly-Syme.
4.
Graham Howe.
4.
Clive Jones,
Abstain.
Pauline Jorgensen,
4,
Norman Jorgensen,
4.
John Kaiser,
4.
Sarah,
Abstain.
4.
Murad Malvern, Charles McGetts,
4.
Rebecca McGetts,
4,
Adrian Mather,
Abstain.
Andrew Mickleby,
Abstain.
Stuart Monroe,
4.
Gregor Murray,
4.
Barry Patman,
4,
Jackie Rance,
4,
Angus Roth,
4.
Daniel Sargent,
4.
Ian Shenty,
Abstain.
Imogen Shepherd-Dubey,
Abstain.
Rochelle Shepherd-Dubey,
Abstain.
Caroline Smith,
Abstain.
Chris Smith,
4.
Wayne Smith,
4.
Alison Swaddle,
4,
Shahid Yunus,
4.
recommendations agreed.
So the recommendations have been approved. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 43, Treasury Management Outturn. Do we have a proposer for this? Councillor Kaiser, do we have a seconder? Daniel Sargent. Will the proposer please speak for 3 minutes?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, this is a document that I've asked to be presented on behalf of the Deputy Chief Executive, Graham Evers. Basically,